Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Naruto and Mito stood opposite each other on top of the Hokage monument, on top of Hashirama's head ironically. A few months ago, and it awoke my old life in me. Since then I have been both Uzumaki Naruto and Senju Hashirama. Mito looked at him with a disbelieving yet desperately hopeful face. She had hoped for it the moment she had laid eyes on him. His chakra and emotions felt too much like Hashirama's. No one could replicate that much of a person unless it was the person himself. She needed proof, though, to erase all her doubts and assure her that it was indeed her beloved husband reborn, standing in front of her. I concede that you have my husband's chakra and bloodline, and you feel very familiar. Give me proof. Please give me proof. Naruto looked at her, the joy shining bright on his face. I activated your seal on the Hokage's office, Mito-chan. Not enough. Tell me something only I and Hashirama would know, Mito asked, feeling as if this were a dream. Naruto turned his back to her and observed the space above the monument. It was right here, wasn't it, Mito-chan? You told me we would have a son. We were alone and we had come here for our walk. The sun was rising, and I was so happy at the news. It makes me happy even today in this life to remember it. Tears were flowing down Mito's eyes. Hashirama-kun? Mokutan, Kami no Niwa, said Naruto, creating the garden the exact same way he did all those years ago. The barren land above the Hokage monument was transformed. A lush green lawn spread over it and cherry trees sprouted everywhere, showering the reunited couple with their beautiful blossoms. Naruto had forgotten about Konoha's plight. Could wait. Then I went maniacal and started jumping around, creating a garden like this one everywhere, until you caught me with an immobilization seal and forced me to calm down. I didn't for around 3 hours, though, laughed Naruto nostalgically. Hashirama, said Mito yet again, rooted to her spot with utter joy. It was true. No one knew all those things except Hashirama. He really was reborn and in front of her. Tobirama was different though. He went outside the village for a good distance, and went even more ballistic than me. You should have seen him, Mito-chan. Mito was slowly walking towards him, hardly believing their good fortune. A second chance, it was a second chance for them. She could be with her beloved husband for an entire lifetime now. I can keep telling you of things only I would know. Tsunade's first word, calling me Ajizan, how I met my friend Madara for the first time on a riverbank, my other dead brothers, Itama and Kawarama, and I can show you something unique to me. He turned and faced Mito, who had a constant stream of tears flowing down her face. Mito felt her heart quicken at the sight of him. He sported the markings of a sage, the same crimson ones Hashirama had possessed. The 2 concentric circles on the center of his forehead, the rings around his eyes and the 2 arcs down his cheeks. He was beautiful. She could sense the chakra flowing through his veins like a storm. It was a glorious feeling, to immerse her mind once more in his all-consuming chakra. It really is me, Mitoheim. She covered the distance between them at a run and flung herself into his arms, where she belonged. I missed you so much, Hashirama. Those years without you, she cried into his shoulder. We are together once more, Mito-chan. No one will ever separate us again. I don't like to see you in tears, Mito-chan, said Naruto, stroking her back soothingly. She wiped her tears, still maintaining her embrace, and examined her husband properly in his reborn body. He was tall for his age, slightly taller than her with long and spiky blonde hair. He looked very handsome as much as he did as Hashirama. But he exuded the same calm and power she always placed her faith in. Konoha had placed its faith in. He released his senjutsu, the markings fading, and hugged her again tightly, unable to believe their luck, their hearts overflowing with their love. It was God himself in his infinite mercy, granting them such happiness. Arigato. Kakashi Taicho. We have bad news, a messenger from the perimeter teams. It seems IWA is attacking us with the Tsuchikage leading them. 2,000 IWA shinobi will be here with the fence sitter in a matter of minutes. Kakashi's eyes widened and he cursed. Of all the times. Tenzo, send half the team and Jounin to back up the perimeter division. IWA chose a bad time. Most of our shinobi are out on missions. Now, Tenzo. The ANBU nodded and shot off. Kakashi glanced around the village and sighed. The job was done well and the village was in a state of complete lockdown. The academy students were safe. At least defending the village would be easier without villagers running around like headless chicken. Something upon the Hokage monument caught his attention. Trees were growing and a lawn was spreading beautifully. Naruto. What was Naruto doing, creating trees on top of monuments when the village was about to be attacked? He decided to go and find out for himself. Naruto and Mito were currently entwined around one another, pouring their love and desperation from years of separation into a single heated kiss. It was excellent. Mito had said she was physically around 17, and he himself was nearing 14. It was just fine. He owed Orochimaru's idiocy. The snake Sannin's greed for Mito to be at her strongest was his undoing. Naruto felt like he was in heaven. His wife's lips felt as soft as ever and her form was as soft as velvet and hard as steel at the same time. She was his light and reason. A throat cleared behind them, causing them to separate hastily and turn. Kakashi-sensei, said Naruto, blushing and irritated at the same time. Mito was watching amusedly. She could never get over him blushing. She had always teased him, called him the shy god of shinobi. Kakashi looked at Naruto, amazed, and hardly believing what he was doing. He was kissing Uzumaki Mito? That was his wife, but still. Naruto cleared his throat as well. Kakashi, meet my wife Uzumaki Mito, first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and the greatest sealing mistress the nations have ever seen. He introduced his wife proudly, taking her hand. Mito blushed faintly at his praise. Hashirama, stopped doing that to him. He seems ready to faint. Naruto gave her a deadpan stare. He does that. Kakashi stared at the two legendary figures reunited. He felt so happy for Naruto, but that had to wait. They would need Naruto if they were to prevail in the coming battle. Naruto IWA is about to attack us in a matter of minutes. We have no idea how they concealed themselves. Naruto exchanged glances with Mito. It is Inoki's Maisugekure no Jutsu. He can hide large numbers of people from view. Only Sensor Ninja or Uchiha can see through that, said Mito. Naruto looked at Mito. What do we do about Hiruzen, Mito-chan? He was always too self-sacrificing for his own good. He may do something drastic. Mito looked back at him. Hashirama, let Hiruzen correct his own mistakes. He can take care of a weakened Tobirama and that snake-like youngster easily. Naruto still looked worried about his student, but Kakashi settled the matter. Mito-sama, Naruto, we have no choice but to leave Hokage-sama to deal with Orochimaru. We need you both to defeat IWA, as our shinobi presence in the village is at a low. Naruto looked torn, but nodded. Mito considered Kakashi. Where are they attacking? From the north and slightly from the east. They will be here soon. Naruto, please do not reveal too much of your strength. Show enough to be considered borderline S-class. We will be too busy recovering from this to deal with other alarmed nations. Naruto nodded solemnly, put his arms around Mito's shoulders and looked deep into her eyes. Let us fight together once more, Mito-chan. Mito nodded in joy. Hashirama by himself was near invincible, but together they were truly invincible. Jiraiya and Kushina were standing together, waiting for the inevitable assault. They had delayed Iwa's arrival by setting certain wide-range traps, and gained about another half hour. They were seal masters, and they used every bit of their mastery to delay Inoki. We are as ready as possible. Kushina, you have to protect our shinobi from the lava-style attacks of the Earth Shinobi. It is said that Inoki's granddaughter possesses the powerful lava-style bloodline. Kushina nodded. I was never as good against IWA as against Kumo. They can disperse my Suiton and Keton with their Doton easily. They have some very strong Doton users. Anyway, will you confront the Tsuchikage alone? Jiraiya opened his mouth, presumably to say yes when a voice interrupted him. No, he won't confront him at all. Kushina and Jiraiya turned, staring with wide eyes. Standing behind them was Naruto, Kakashi, and a very beautiful young woman, who had red hair and held her son's hand. Kakashi disappeared with a shunshin, though, explaining that he needed to check on the shinobi. Naruto, yelled Kushina, and pulled him into a crushing hug. Naruto's eyes were popping out. Ka-san, stop, suffering Tora? Kushina released him immediately, looking sheepish. What happened to the Sandaime, Naruto? He is fighting Orochimaru and Tobirama. I hope he is all right. His life force feels fine if a little dimmer. Naruto looked coldly at Jiraiya. And stop peeking at my wife, Ero-senin. Jiraiya's eyes went back to normal, looking anywhere but at Naruto. He knew who Naruto was and he knew who his wife should be. How is she here though? Your wife? Asked Kushina, looking like she was punch drunk. Mito stepped towards her and said tenderly. It has been a long time, Kushina-chan. You have grown into a beautiful and strong kunoichi. You make me proud. Kushina was awed. Mito-sama, you really are back. Mito looked pleased and happy. I am here to stay, Kushina-chan. My place is by my husband's side, she said, melting into his embrace. She could hardly stop touching him to make sure this was all real. Naruto looked at Kushina, who looked like she was about to explode with questions. Jiraiya was busily writing down something in a notebook. Meet my wife and your daughter-in-law Uzumaki Mito, Ka-san, Naruto said seriously. Kushina looked extremely weirded out. She had no idea how to feel about this. Mito bopped him on his head. Stop confusing everybody, Hashirama. Kushina-chan has already been in a battle. Anyway, how much longer do we have? Kushina shut away disordered feelings of her son, who was married before she was born, and answered. Jiraiya-sensei's scouts say Inoki is leading his shinobi at a fast pace and will be here in another half hour. We set traps for him with a wide-range swamp seal and a fire tornado seal. Lots of them. It won't stop the Tsuchikage for long though. His dust release is too strong. Naruto put a hand on Kushina's shoulder. Don't worry about Inoki, Ka-san. I had such high hopes for him. But it seems Mu got to him after all. I guess I need to teach him again the same lesson Madara taught him. Inoki fought Madara? Jiraiya asked with amazement. Naruto nodded. Not fought exactly. No, more like got humiliated. His strength doesn't even register when compared to Madara or me. Hashirama, you are not at your old strength yet, perhaps half of it. I sense that you are growing steadily, but it will be some time till you are as strong as before. I estimate 3 years, said Mito with concern. I am strong enough, besides I have you, he said. Mito laid her head on his shoulder, causing him to encircle her in his embrace yet again. Jiraiya went back to his note-taking and Kushina watched her legendary son and his wife with mixed feelings. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the ground. They saw a shinobi floating high above the ground and IWA ninja poured out in their hundreds in 4 groups. 3 were close and 1 was quite a distance to the left. Ka-san, Ero-senin and Kakashi-sensei, you go and deal with 3 groups with all our shinobi. Leave Inoki and that 4th division to us. I will teach that brat not to turn on Konoha, said Naruto, wisdom and authority in his eyes. They nodded rapidly. It was better than they had hoped for. Disappearing, they led the charge of the gathered Konoha shinobi and met IWA with a thunderous crash. He could go and wipe out the lot of them with Mokutan, but he did not really want to slaughter them to the last man unless they left him no other choice. Madara had always called him soft-hearted, but that was just how he was. No, only Inoki remembered the absolute power he had wielded with the wood release. These IWA shinobi needed something they feared more than just fairy tales to confront them, if they were to be made to flee from conflict. Naruto gathered his chakra, a shining silver aura manifesting around him. Mito too gathered her strength, a rippling gray chakra forming around her. The legendary couple looked at each other and disappeared towards battle. Inoki watched the ensuing battle from high in the air. This was his chance to take out Konoha. As expected, the Sannin Jiraiya, the wife of the cursed Namikaze, and that Sharingan-wielding nightmare were cutting through his forces like hot knife through butter. He smiled grimly. Konoha's newest generation of shinobi were not battle-tested. They made elementary mistakes and paid for it with death. His own shinobi were decimating the Konoha forces in return. 2 S-class ninja and 1 borderline S-class, however strong, could not stand up to 2,000 highly trained war veterans, let alone those newbies Konoha had sent out for its defense. The 3 divisions were engaging Konoha's forces successfully, and the 4th division was expected to encircle around them, and they would crush Konoha. He saw the 4th division beginning to move to surround the Konoha shinobi, but they suddenly stopped. Why did they stop? He floated downwards quite a bit and saw something that surprised him to no end. A blond boy, tall for his age, and a beautiful young woman in white face, his legion of shinobi, as if they did not have a care in the world. Either these youth were very strong or were just buying time. He decided to intervene only if things got bad for the 4th division. They still had time to execute the final maneuver. Mito stood alongside her husband as they stared at the 500 shinobi in front of him. Kakashi asked you not to show your true strength, only about S-class. How will you handle this? Naruto drew his wakizashi and held it to his side at an angle, reinforcing the blade with pure earth chakra and increasing its tensile strength tenfold. They fear a yellow flash, so they will fear me. He had mastered the use of Shunshin when he was but a boy, dedicated long months only to it. It was short range and worked only by sight, but it would do for this battle. Mito-chan, defend me against long-range attacks. I would do it myself, but you know I must restrict my show of strength. Mito nodded. Go, Hashirama. Naruto nodded and disappeared with a yellow flash, and appeared in front of the IWA ranks. Then he began to slaughter them before they could even blink. Inoki could hardly believe his eyes. Ranks upon ranks of his shinobi were falling like flies, not even able to react. He strained his eyes and saw something that chilled him to the bone. A flash of yellow moving across the stunned ranks, almost too fast to even spot. He was killing them with impunity. This had to stop. He was not as fast as the Namikaze butcher, but he was fast enough. This threat would be eliminated soon. Kushina, Jiraiya, and Kakashi were upon a small hill, watching the battle unfold. They had put up a barrier seal to recuperate and consider their next move. Their teams were fighting well enough, but it was obvious they would have to retreat back to Konoha soon enough. These IWA shinobi seemed handpicked. They were probably the top tier of Iwa's shinobi. All of them were probably A rank or high B rank. Some were IWA ANBU. That made it hard for them to kill their enemies. Kushina had fought many battles, but she had not faced an army of high-level shinobi. IWA had staked much on its assault. Kushina suddenly heard something that froze her heart and made Kakashi and Jiraiya turn towards the voice in disbelief. "It is the yellow flash of Konoha. Run!" They saw the division Naruto and Mito-sama had gone to confront running back to the main force helter-skelter. Behind the rapidly retreating battalion, she saw something amazing. Barely discernible flashes of yellow, rapidly taking out the retreating shinobi of IWA. "Minato," said Jiraiya in wonder. Kushina looked heartbroken as her son flashed around rapidly, taking out his father's enemies. He was so fast, reminding her painfully of Minato. "Minato, if only you could see our son." "Naruto is using their own fear against them," said Kakashi with admiration. But he too was rattled at how much Naruto reminded him of his sensei as he used the Shunshin. Jiraiya pointed to a glowing white light above Naruto's general area. "It's Inoki. He is using dust release against Naruto. He must be really scared by the reappearance of the yellow flash to go that far so fast." Kushina looked very worried. "My baby." Mito saw her husband stop and resheath his blade as he watched the remnants of the battalion run back to the main force. He had surprised her with his situational awareness, a legacy of this lifetime, she thought. She followed the line of her husband's sight and saw Inoki preparing to launch dust release. "No you don't, Inoki." Inoki thrust his hands toward Naruto. "Jintan. Genkai Hikuri no Jutsu." A huge column of white light descended from Inoki's position in the skies towards Naruto, ripping through the air at an unbelievable speed. Mito appeared next to her husband and slammed her palms together. "Fuinjutsu. Ryushi Furutashiru." Naruto watched as his wife countered Inoki's attack with a particle filter seal. Her own innovation, her proficiency with seals really astounded him. Inoki's white light just dissipated into shining embers falling harmlessly onto the floor. Naruto looked at Mito and nodded with admiration for her as Inoki looked at them with indecision, and floated back to his own army. "Disengage!" Kushina watched as Inoki's attack was dispersed by Mito-sama, and that Tsuchikage floated back to his own army ordering them to disengage. The Konoha shinobi too disengaged, and within a short while the battle lines were formed once more, Konoha facing IWA. They were outnumbered 2-1, and they could hold out from inside the village. Of all the times for Konoha to have so many of its shinobi out on missions, she watched with relief as Naruto and Mito appeared next to Kakashi and Jiraiya. She went up to meet them. "Inoki is forming up to attack again. We must retreat to Konoha. Our forces are wounded and weakened, and the reserves inside the city will help us outlast a siege." "It is for the best, Kushina-san," IWA has lost about 500 of its own, and still has about 1,000 fresh shinobi. We, on the other hand, are down to 300, all of us weary. Jiraiya and Naruto acquiesced as well, albeit reluctantly. It would not take long for Inoki to reform his forces and attack with unfamiliar tactics. They passed the order. Inoki watched with satisfaction as the Konoha shinobi ran back to their village, but he could not let them escape to their village. He did not come here to lay a siege. My fellow shinobi, watch as Konoha retreats. Do not fear the imitation yellow flash, as he is fleeing too. They must be at their limit. Do not let them escape to their hidey hole. His shinobi cheered, having reorganized. As one, they gave chase. Their forces were nearly through the gates, and Kushina sighed with relief. IWA was now within sight of them, roaring with anger and triumph, the lot of them. Naruto suddenly stumbled, falling upon his knees. Mito cried out and stopped too, appearing by his side. Kushina joined them as well, seeing her son stumble. Jiraiya and Kakashi were watching worriedly from the battlements as the three stopped. The last of the perimeter guard was almost through. What's wrong, Hashirama? IWA is almost upon us. Unless you want to reveal our strength, we should go, said Mito urgently. Naruto stood up and looked at Mito and then at Kushina with an expression of piercing sadness, tears flowing down his face. The IWA army was fully in view at the horizon. The trees in this area were sparse and it was almost full plateau, suited for IWA. What happened, Naruto? We have no time, asked Kushina urgently. Hiruzen is dead. Orochimaru is fleeing the village. His chakra feels damaged and diminished, but I could feel Hiruzen's life force snuffed out like a candle. He is gone. Kushina and Mito gasped. Naruto was losing his expression of utter sadness, and it was being rapidly replaced with anger. As Hashirama, he had lost a beloved student, but as Naruto, he had lost the one man who had consoled him throughout his childhood, the one man who was always there for him, no matter what. And they had taken him away. They had taken the one man who was dear to him in both lives, away. If it were not for Iwa's invasion, then he could have easily helped Hiruzen defeat Orochimaru. He faced the approaching invaders and spoke to Mito. I could have protected him if only these pests had not dared to attack Konoha. I will slaughter them, he said with absolute rage. Mito looked alarmed. When Hashirama was angered, there was no stopping him. No one could stop him. Even Madara feared his anger. Mito-chan, take Ka-san a safe distance away from me. I don't care about secrecy anymore. Those who attack Konoha without any provocation will be erased. Kushina was too shocked as Mito nodded and kissed her son on his cheek, whispering for him to take care. She was grasped by the hand and appeared next to Jiraiya and Kakashi in a series of shunshin, Mito dragging her. What is happening, Kushina-san, Mito-sama? Why is Naruto out there alone? Asked Kakashi, concern upon his face. The reserve Konoha shinobi were lining the walls, readying themselves for the siege. Jiraiya, Kushina, and Kakashi, however, were alternating their glances between Mito and Naruto. Hiruzen is dead, killed by Orochimaru. The two males of the group gasped in grief. He is angered beyond measure. He blames IWA for interfering. You three know just how much Hiruzen meant to Naruto in this life. How can he defeat so many shinobi? There are about 1,000 of them out there, not to mention Inoki, said Jiraiya, his worry showing. Mito made a hand seal, creating a powerful barrier of silence around them. Watch, you have no idea of his true strength. He will show the world again why he was called God of Shinobi. IWA will pay. He shouldn't reveal Mokutan, said Kakashi. Would you rather be killed by IWA than have my husband reveal his strength? Asked Mito. Kakashi had nothing to say to that, so he shut up. They watched as the IWA Nin rushed towards Naruto, intent on just obliterating him. Naruto walked forward calmly, his previous rage dissolving into deadly focus. The faint silver sheen around his body exploded into a very bright rippling glow, tinged faintly with red. He is using a little of Kyuubi's chakra, said Mito, as if he were not strong enough already. The ground around Naruto started cracking and the pebbles on the ground were being crushed. The entire region felt his presence and anger. The IWA shinobi rushing towards him just stumbled and went on their knees in their hundreds, unable to bear the power of the Shodai Hokage being unleashed. Kushina watched open-mouthed as her son subdued his enemies by presence and chakra alone. She felt the enormity of it as if it were the crack of doom. The Konoha shinobi were also shivering in awe, staring at the boy they had believed to be a nuisance. What power? How powerful is he? Asked Jiraiya, barely hiding his amazement. Kakashi looked stunned as he watched his student walk even closer to the IWA army. They were still unable to move from the pressure. A beam of pure white light shot at him from the skies again. Inoki was taking action but to no avail. A massive hand of wood shot from the earth and swatted the jutsu away as if it were a bothersome fly. The Konoha shinobi seemed ready to faint. Some of the IWA shinobi did faint. Mokutan, whispers ran everywhere, both among the defenders and attackers. The battlefield was now rumbling, Naruto's chakra escalating still. The IWA shinobi had thrown off Naruto's oppression and were preparing their own jutsus. Naruto formed the serpent seal in preparation for his own. With a massive roar, 200 IWA shinobi in the front lines yelled out the name of their jutsu, joined by Inoki who sent another dust release technique at Naruto. A massive bolt of white energy hurtled again towards Naruto, this time accompanied by multiple jutsus of all the elements. The air was so bright with the techniques being unleashed that it was impossible to even see the IWA army. The Konoha shinobi gasped in terror as the torrent of jutsu descended upon Naruto. Kushina uttered a silent prayer for her son, and Mito smiled. Mokutan Haijitsu, Jukai Kuten. Thousands of massive tree trunks exploded from the ground beyond Naruto, dispelling the torrent of jutsu like a predator dispels from its sight a herd of prey. The countless trees rushed towards the IWA shinobi, their huge size and force of release crushing them, killing them. Their multiple earth walls were pierced through by the force of the wood release, their lava techniques too small and ineffective to stop the thousands of massive trees descending upon them. Simultaneously, a Rashomon rose to intercept Inoki's attack, exploding to take the impact. Naruto had stopped his technique and looked at the fleeing IWA shinobi. They came here for a slaughter? Then he would give them it. Mokutan, Mokuryu no Jutsu. An absolutely huge dragon of wood about a third of Konoha's size blasted from the ground, its creator leaping upon its head. It then took flight and hovered over the fleeing IWA shinobi. It then dove full force into the now fully retreating army, crushing them under its weight. Its swiping claws and flailing body destroyed entire battalions of the enemy, and none of their jutsu even left a scratch upon it. Naruto scoffed. His wood dragon could even take a Bijidama from Kurama and toss it back. Their weak jutsu would not work. The remaining 500 tried to scatter in all directions, but it was in vain. 5 more wood dragons were born out of the earth, encircling the invaders and hemming them up in a circle of huge radius. The Konoha shinobi watched with reverence and downright worship as Naruto wielded their most sacred bloodline to rain destruction on the enemies of the village. Kushina and Jiraiya watched with amazement as they saw the full power of the Mokuton being wielded for the first time in nearly a century. "Is this the power of the Mokuton?" Kushina asked faintly. Kakashi was watching as if he did not want to miss even a single instant of the spectacle. "Not really. Hashirama can go far beyond this," said Mito proudly. "He was called God of Shinobi for a reason." Kushina dumbly looked back towards the now-ending battle. Anoki was fleeing rapidly from her enraged son, taking who she assumed was his family with him. The IWA invaders were all but destroyed. "Mokuton! Kakujai Korin!" Naruto yelled, and a dense forest sprouted within the encirclement of his dragons, startling the clamoring 500 shinobi imprisoned within. Hundreds upon hundreds of huge flowers grew, spitting their pollen into the air. The trapped shinobi inhaled the lethal pollen, dying instantly in the hundreds. The circling wood dragons along with his own pounced upon the 100 survivors of the massacre. These men stood no chance. They were simply torn apart by the 6 dragons. Naruto looked around at the huge forest he had created and at the slaughtered bodies of the invaders in their hundreds with an impassive face. It was over so fast. They had to be destroyed, but he still grieved for it, his anger forgotten. War's wastefulness was beyond compare. He really hoped that Iwa's defeat would preserve the peace of Konoha. But the 1,000 he had slaughtered were loyal shinobi who had died for their village. They had to be returned to the earth. Doton, Yusha no Maiso. Kushina watched as the dead everywhere in the plateau were swallowed up by the earth, their traces wiped clean. Her son had just killed hundreds of enemies and buried them. Minato did not even compare to this kind of strength. "You are indeed a god among shinobi, Hashirama-sama," thought Jiraiya, watching Naruto walk back with an immensely sad expression. The gatekeepers Izumo and Kotetsu opened the gates with a deep bow. Naruto just entered wearily and appeared in front of Kushina and Mito. Mito just ran up to him and hugged him hard, kissing him. "You fought like a god, my husband," she said proudly, looking at his face. It seemed that most of the Konoha shinobi had not recognized the young Mito in all the turmoil. They all bowed deeply to Naruto, Kakashi and Jiraiya leading them, with nothing but awe and reverence on their faces. Naruto bowed back deeply as well, leading to resounding cheers through Konoha. "Let's go home, Mito-chan Ka-san. I trust you can handle the rest, Ero-senin." Jiraiya nodded. "Go home and rest for now, Gaki. You will doubtless be summoned later." Naruto nodded and disappeared with his wife and mother. He had a student and Hokage to mourn. Stories spread through Konoha like wildfire of the defeat of IWA by a new god of shinobi wielding Mokuton again, reigniting the will of fire in its shinobi. They all stared together from the battlements at the huge forest that had been birthed during the battle and named it the Forest of the God. "Ka-san," Naruto said sadly, watching his mother face away from him. He could feel her turbulent emotions, anger, and overwhelming fear. Mito was also looking at his mother solemnly. Kushina seemed to be releasing the shock and horror she had suppressed when Naruto had taken on an army of strong shinobi single-handedly. She turned to him. "Naruto, do you have any idea what I have gone through to keep you safe? You told me you were a father once. Just try to put yourself in my current situation. How could you scare me like that, taking on an entire elite army alone? You know what it feels like for a parent to see their child facing what they think is an imminent death. Naruto moved to her and engulfed her in a hug, a poignant expression on his face. The loss of Hiruzen, the misery of his mother who had thought she would see him die, and his wholesale slaughter of the IWA shinobi were weighing upon his soul. He was never this quick to anger as Senju Hashirama. His twin lives were merging slowly, creating someone entirely new. He had to be wary of himself. There was no doubt that his actions today were necessary, but there was also no doubt that he had let his emotions overcome him. He had thought he was long past that, but it seemed he still had issues in that regard. He had very few people. Ka-san, I understand, and I am so sorry. I had just lost my student Hiruzen, who was also the one man who was truly there for me during my darkest years. I am sorry. You may be the great Shodai Hokage reborn, Naruto, but I still see you as the adorable little boy who cried for his stuffed fox at night. Please, please do not do such things ever again without me. I have only you left whom I can call my own, my blood, my son. I will die if I lose you, Kushina said into his shoulder in a small voice, her pain and anguish apparent. Naruto's blood ran cold at the thought of his mother dying. I promise. He could feel the intensity of his mother's emotions receding somewhat. Don't forget me, Kushina-chan. I will be there with my husband as a part of our family. We are the last of the Uzumaki. Kushina looked at Mito, as the three of them sat together on the sofa. Naruto gathered Mito in his arms, the great Kunoichi cuddling into her husband. Mito-sama, how are you so young again? If not for my familiarity with your chakra, I could never have recognized you. I never knew you to be so beautiful. Mito blushed faintly, and Naruto got stars in his eyes looking once more at his stunning wife. Even Madara had acknowledged her beauty, and his old friend had developed a large hatred for anything to do with the Senju by then. Thank you, Kushina-chan. As for your question, I think Orochimaru has understood the Edo Tensei in an unusual way, and used it to bring me back in my 17-year-old body. I was extremely strong as I am now, almost reaching my prime. My physical energy and chakra used to be and currently is almost as much as Hashirama has now. Kushina laughed sadly. I suppose we owe Orochimaru for this, don't we? He brought you back to us, back to my son. Naruto needs someone from his past to help him reconcile completely and support him like a lover. We should be grateful to Kami. Naruto nodded. Extreme sadness coursed through his mind as he remembered the Sandaime from both his lives. True, Ka-san. We will need to attend Hiruzen's funeral tomorrow, though. Then we will have to answer to the village council. They will want to put me under their thumb after seeing Mokutan once more. Mito looked annoyed. No, they won't. Have you forgotten the relationship Uzumaki have with Konoha? You are now an Uzumaki. Unless you take your father's name, which Kushina tells me is highly regarded in Konoha, the council will have little hold on you, she said. So you will head the Uzumaki clan then, Mito-sama? Kushina asked curiously. Yes. I am the eldest Uzumaki alive after all, and Konoha will serve as an excellent rallying point for the new Uzumaki clan. The village owes us. What is owed will be repaid in full, Mito-chan. I will ensure that, Naruto assured her. Mito just laid her head on his shoulder and Kushina stood up tiredly. I am going to sleep, Naruto. It has been a long day. We will have an even longer one tomorrow. Good night, Mito-sama, Naruto. Good night, Ka-san, said Naruto. A night's sleep would lessen his piercing grief and allow him to come to terms slowly with the old man's death and his own actions. Rain began to fall, and it seemed Konoha itself was weeping for its lost Hokage. Sasuke walked up to the Sandaime and placed a single white flower in front of his framed portrait. He was the last. Konoha's entire shinobi force had turned up to attend Sarutobi Hiruzen's funeral. The Hokage had evidently fought the Orochimaru, nearly defeating him. They had said that Orochimaru was now gravely injured and had gone back to recuperate from his incapacitation. He watched as Naruto stood alongside Kushina-san and some pretty red-haired woman whom he seemed to have picked up somewhere. They were holding hands. Sasuke felt rather out of character, wanting to tease his friend mercilessly. But he saw the sadness on Naruto's face and concluded that he would have a tree shoved through him if he did that. His mission had ended in failure. He had successfully incapacitated Gaara's teammates, but Jounin from Suna had soon appeared to extract them from Konoha. It seemed as if Temari and Kankuro held some rank in the hierarchy of Suna. He and the other rookies had gathered to prepare for the siege, and they had seen what Naruto had done. He had single-handedly destroyed the invading force and only looked moderately tired after doing it. After forcing the Tsuchikage to flee, the power he had exhibited, the village bowed to Naruto with reverence and looked upon him as if he was their deliverance. Where he walked, the villagers seemed to straighten and their faces would change to one of blazing determination and pride. It was as if Naruto had ignited a flame in the village that refused to be extinguished. As he fought Konoha's enemies, its shinobi had changed. His weariness after the battle had seemed only mental and emotional, rather than physical. It just amazed Sasuke to think how Naruto could contain that much power. Power to wipe out armies. He had to step up his training if he were to ever catch up with Naruto. He had been slacking off even if he progressed well with the Shunshin. He had to speak to Naruto, get him to help with his training. He watched as Anbu appeared in front of Naruto, Kushina-san, and the pretty woman, and they all disappeared in a Shunshin. Oh well, he would talk to him later. Konoha's council room. Naruto faced the council of Konoha, congregated fully. On the left side sat the shinobi consisting of the clan heads. Inuzuka, Hyuga, Nara, Akimichi, to name a few. He could see Hamura, Koharu, and Danzo staring at Mito with amazement and at him with apprehension. Hiruzen's seat was empty, and it brought him a deep pang of sadness. He had been told by the Anbu witness of Hiruzen's actions. He felt proud of the Hokage, proud at his sacrifice and sad at its necessity. To beat Tobirama and Orochimaru at his age. He would honor Hiruzen's sacrifice. Let us start this council with the most pressing matter at this moment. Uzumaki Naruto, step forward, said Hamura in an authoritative voice. Naruto just sighed and went up to stand in front of the council. We have many matters to attend to after yesterday's invasion, and we cannot waste time. Thus we will go directly to the issue. Naruto-san, you destroyed those barbaric Iwa shinobi with the sacred bloodline, Mokutan. Here Hamura and Koharu stared at him with something akin to respect. Danzo just stared at him blankly. You have the utmost gratitude of your fellow shinobi and Konoha as a whole for defending us in our time of need. After your actions at the field of battle, the Council of Konoha has seen fit to appoint you to the rank of Jounin. This matter is not open for discussion, stated Hamura firmly. The shinobi in the room were giving Naruto looks of respect and awe, inclining their heads in his direction. Some bowed. The clan heads were giving sour glances to the civilian side at this statement. What had happened to the smooth working of this village? Did it really always need me to prosper? Thought Naruto with frustration. Was it only his strength that had held his shinobi together? He had for the longest time thought it was something else. He had thought it was his ideals. Seeing Hamura's maneuvering, feeling all their deplorable emotions in the air made him sick. He wanted out. The civilian council were quite predictably shouting their objections. Morons. Silence. The civilians have no say in the workings of the shinobi hierarchy. It was only the Shodai's kindness that allowed nuisances like you in this room in the first place, came Hyuga Hayashi's cutting voice. The civilian council members just froze, unable to bear the killing intent. Naruto agreed wholeheartedly. His kindness to the civilian population as Hashirama had come back to annoy him. Indeed, we have received reports from our ANBU eyewitnesses that Mito-sama was resurrected by Orochimaru. Mito stepped forward. Indeed I was. Orochimaru resurrected me in this form, and I was able to break free of his bindings and return to a human body. I am Uzumaki Mito. The council seemed stunned. Only the three elders even seeing the Mito they had known in the beautiful woman in front of them. This is indeed Mito-sama. Her chakra still burns bright, said Koharu. Her reputation as a censor was once widely known throughout the nations. The civilians were open-mouthed with their surprise. They kept on whispering, unable to keep up with the astronomical changes introduced to Konoha after the battle. We are glad to see you alive and young once more, Mito-sama. So glad, said Hamura in what really appeared to be happiness, while the clan heads bowed in respect to the kunoichi. Koharu too looked elated, but Naruto was intrigued with Danzo. He extended his sense towards the bandaged shinobi and almost cried out in surprise. Danzo's emotions felt regretful and cold at the same time, but that was not the point. He could feel chakras in Danzo that should not coexist. A trace of his own chakra and the chakra of multiple Sharingan. What had Danzo been doing? How far had he fallen to have multiple Sharingan implanted upon his arm and Senju Hashirama's cells into his body? Something was very wrong with the village. If the council that he had appointed so long ago was so deeply corrupt, it was a wonder that Konoha was still standing. Already he could feel a change in the village. The warmth and loyalty that used to dominate the village during his reign were gone, leaving only essential kindness and a certain loyalty towards the organization. These three were the organization. They had made themselves centers of power in Konoha, despite his teachings that the Hokage and the councils only lived to serve the shinobi, and were the first among equals. He had to play this carefully. He wresting control of the village from the council would not go well. It would only plant the seeds for chaos. As much as he hated what the village had become, he had to play by the rules. Rules he himself had created. It was the better choice. Danzo could wait. Anyway, he was broken from his pondering as Mito spoke. It is good to be back. Hashirama would want me to keep his legacy safe and shining. Naruto grinned. So I will be the head of the Uzumaki clan in Konoha from here on. It is my right as the oldest surviving Uzumaki in the village. My clan will no longer be unrepresented. The three elders nodded, as did the rest of the council. It was only right. Koharu took the floor. We are glad that this matter is settled. We would like to accord Uzumaki Naruto a great honor and induct him into the council guard, the elite shinobi that is under our direct command. It often requires years of skill and experience to gain membership. What do you say, Naruto-san? They believe me a kid. A powerful one, but a kid nonetheless. What a bad play to have my strength. It is not my choice, Koharu-san. I must consult my clan head. What say you, Mito-san? Should I enter the great council guard? He asked. My clansmen shall be affiliated to Konoha and Uzumaki alone. No other affiliations, as there are precious few of us to spare. This is my final decision, Mito said firmly. The elders looked rather sour, but the clan heads seemed rather happy. Naruto had avoided the clutches of the elders for now, and they could somehow ally themselves with him. The entire council were now staring at Naruto like a hungry pack of wolves. They care so much about my power, forgetting so easily that we were invaded on two fronts. I had to win the battle, and Hiruzen defeated Orochimaru. Konoha needs to change. Mito now stood tall, her and Kushina flanking a depressed Naruto on both sides. Any and all offers to the Uzumaki clan, from marriage to alliances, should be made through me. Any kunoichi forcing themselves upon Uzumaki Naruto for any reason whatsoever shall be dealt with by me personally, she said with an ice-cold voice. Jealous are you, Mito-chan? Do you actually believe I would even look at any other woman when I have you at my side? The council sighed as one. With Naruto under the protection of Mito herself as clan head, their power plays for him were futile. For now, at least. The three elders looked a bit angry, but the session was resumed by Hamura once more. We have lost our Hokage Hiruzen to Orochimaru's attack. Uzumaki Naruto's show of strength will incite the alarm of all the villages in the land. We need a new Hokage to guide us during these turbulent times. I nominate Jiraiya, said Hamura. Jiraiya appeared out of nowhere, startling the council. Don't do that, Jiraiya-sensei, Kushina scolded him. Jiraiya waved it off, staring at the council. That job is not for me. I have another job, and it cannot have me sitting stationary here in Konoha. You were the candidate endorsed by Hiruzen. There is no one else suitable. There is one, actually. I am not the only remaining Sannin, barring Orochimaru. Tsunade, thought Naruto. That child had gone off the grid, supposedly drowning in her own miseries. Her become the Hokage, when she had enough ghosts of her own to deal with. What was Ero Sennin thinking? He would love to see the little girl once more, though. Jiraiya gave him a glance, as if he knew what was on his mind, and signaled him to wait. You speak of Tsunade-sama. She cannot be found at We Need a Leader fast. A civilian tried to butt in. How about Kushina-sama? She has strong ties with the Hokage of Konoha and is strong enough. Kushina snorted. No way. I will not be Hokage as I have many personal commitments. The council seemed annoyed by this. Personal commitments? You would forsake Konoha for such a thing? Questioned Hayashi. Kushina looked at Naruto, who nodded minutely. They would know sooner or later. I have to be there for my husband's legacy, my son, Uzumaki Naruto. I will not give up my son for anything, so rule me out. Your son? He is the son of Yondaime. What is going on here? Questioned Chusa in amazement. They seemed stunned, though the elders seemed resigned. Kushina sighed, as did Mito and Naruto. This would be a long sitting. Orochimaru screamed in pain as Kabuto dressed his arms in a salve and bandages. Damn old geezer. He hoped the Sandaime would suffer for an eternity within the death god. He could not use techniques anymore. Curse that old man. My plan. All in ruins thanks to that annoying Kyubijin Shiriki and the old man. My curse seal on Sasuke will be removed eventually by Mito. I am back to square one. How dare he? Yelled Orochimaru in anger. Orochimaru-sama, you were facing strong opponents. The shinobi no kami, Sarutobi Hiruzen, was no mere ninja. The rumors about Naruto-kun portray him as someone to be feared as much as or more than the Yondaime. Orochimaru snarled. Do not patronize me, Kabuto. I failed at getting the Sharingan twice, and I have no chance whatsoever of getting the Mokuton. Itachi and Naruto-kun are both too strong for me. We need to get Sasuke-kun, and soon. But Orochimaru-sama, we would have no chance against the ones who are in Konoha right now. I know that, I know, which is why, after I get my arms healed, we will be rejoining a certain organization. They can be of use to me once more. Kabuto's eyes widened. Do you agree to these terms, Eidano? Questioned the Godame Mizukage, Terumi Mei. She was an extremely beautiful woman with a stunningly proportioned body, not to mention her reputation as a kunoichi. She was to be feared as a kage. Defeating the Sanbai Jinchuriki and a kage to boot in combat was no mean feat. A considered the woman in front of him and considered her treaty. It would absolve Kumo from harm for quite some time, allowing him to accelerate his own plans. Two shinobi appeared in the room abruptly, bending down to whisper a message in the ears of each kage. The two leaders listened for quite some time, their eyebrows climbing higher and higher, and their jaws dropping. I looked at May. I wager we heard essentially the same news. To think that Inoki himself and his personal army were defeated by that boy. May looked intrigued. He is a very strong shinobi, Uzumaki Naruto. To think he possesses the Mokuton and on such a scale. I nodded with wonder. The message had startled him a lot. Yujito had been right. Her prompt message had allowed him to be prepared for this eventuality. It seemed that Naruto was becoming strong with the Mokuton. Too strong. The balance of power in the nations would be shifting with this. He was already being called the god of shinobi, inheriting the title from Hiruzen. He had earned it on the field of battle, defeating a kage and his army simultaneously. He owed Yujito. To have that power directed against his village would be disastrous. Mei, though, was secretly happy. So that is your son, Kushina-san. It seems that the Namikaze family is the true strength of Konoha. I need to meet your Naruto, as fast as possible. Both kage resumed their discussion, plans whirling in their minds after hearing the new developments. Oh. Did you speak to Matatabi, Kurama? Asked Naruto as he walked to the edge of the village with Sasuke, Jiraiya and his family accompanying him. The council had accepted him being Namikaze Minato's son after a great deal of shouting. But he had refused his father's name formally for now, as he needed the political protection of the Uzumaki clan. Many shinobi already considered him Namikaze Naruto, and had taken to calling him that. News of his heritage had spread among Konoha's shinobi, and they already accepted him as Minato's son. I did, Hashirama. She told me that Jinchuriki and Kumo are treated reasonably, except that their training is a little tough. Her Jinchuriki was trained in very harsh conditions. And one more thing, the Hachibi Gyuki is there with his Jinchuriki. He is rather strong, if a bit boring. Naruto thought about it. The nearby Jinchuriki had claimed Gaara as her capture, taking him to Kumo. The treaty with Hiruzen had allowed it, unfortunately. From what he heard from Kurama, the Ichibi Jinchuriki would surely have a better life in Kumo. He wondered what was happening in Suna. Their lack of a leader had to have created a vacuum in power. Mito put up the silence seals. Be careful, Sasuke-kun, Naruto. Tsunade is really short-tempered, Kushina said to her son and godson. Now, don't worry, Kushina. I will be there with them. Mito and Kushina looked skeptical. Somehow that does not reassure me, Jiraiya-sensei, said Kushina. Mito got a dangerous look in her eye. If you turn my husband into a pervert, Jiraiya-kun, there will be hell to pay. Naruto and Sasuke looked on, amused, as Jiraiya backpedaled fast from the two kunoichi, waving his hands frantically. No, I would never. The two looked satisfied. Sasuke proceeded onward, stepping out of the silence barrier's range. Convenient. Mito-chan, don't worry about me. Tsunade is acting like a child. I'll get her back. Don't worry. You know how I can convince her to do anything. She idolizes me, said Naruto happily. You spoil her too much, Hashirama. You will tell her then? Asked Mito. Kushina and Jiraiya were paying attention. Yes. She deserves to know she has family left in this world still. I won't tell her right away, though. Kushina and Mito nodded. Be careful, Naruto. You will be targeted by multiple shinobi after you showed your prowess at the battle. I know who you are, but still. Don't worry, Kasan. They'll be toast, declared Naruto. Mito embraced him. Hashirama, listen to your mother. There will always be someone strong enough to challenge you. Come back soon with Tsunade. Naruto kissed her softly on the cheek. Of course. Bye, Kasan. Mito-chan. Come on. Ero-senin, let us get to Sasuke before he gets too far away. Jiraiya and Naruto ran after Sasuke, the two Uzumaki women watching them. In a cave far from Konoha, upon the fingers of a massive statue with multiple eyes, stood projections of 9 shinobi, all of them wearing black cloaks with red clouds. Why are we gathered again so soon? I have bounties to collect, said the deep voice of a man with a mask on him. A silver-haired man with a large scythe laughed madly. Leader Sama, this job with Akatsuki is sacred. The number of people I have sacrificed to Jashin-sama. It is Jashin-sama's grace that I have such a purpose. The man in the center spoke at last, and his eyes were strange. They were a dull purple in color, with a ripple-like pattern spreading over the eyeballs. Quiet, Haydn. We have extremely important news that affects our plans. Tell them, Zetsu. A plant-like being with half-black and half-white skin divided vertically spoke. It appears that Orochimaru attempted an invasion of Konoha during the Chunin exams. He was able to kill the Yondaime Hokage and was invaded the village with Odo and Suna, said the white half of Zetsu, but was interrupted by Black Zetsu. But it appears as if the village knew of his plans and defended itself well. But Orochimaru used Edo Tensei to bring back Uzumaki Mito at full strength. He underestimated her. Sharingan eyes widened, and the other shinobi began to curse softly. I can deal with Uzumaki Mito if necessary, but we will avoid confrontation with her till absolutely needed. Proceed, Zetsu, ordered the leader. But that is the least of our worries. The Ichibi Jinchuriki then went haywire, but the nearby Jinchuriki stopped him. They fought in their tailed beast forms. A grotesquely hunched form with a face mask asked, Did that not destroy the village? Orochimaru won, it seems. No, Sasori. Uzumaki Naruto contained both Bijou, with a prison of Mokutan. Their reactions were instantaneous. Impossible. To confine the Bijou, it is the Shodai Hokage's strength. Mokutan, of all things. Jashin-sama, he will be your sacrifice. What? Silence, ordered Pain. Listen first. Continue, Zetsu. That is not the whole story. He then left the third to deal with the snake, and then accompanied Mito to an unknown location. After which, IWA attacked in force, about 2,000 of their strongest under Inoki's command. Eyes widened everywhere. Oh yeah, I bet the old man got them right. His dust release is true art, an explosive masterpiece. A blond and tall young man shouted. I'm sure it is, Deidara. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki confronted them and Zetsu proceeded to describe in detail what the battle had entailed. There was absolute silence when he finished. Only Inoki and his family had left alive. And then, Itachi, the Kyuubi is your job, yours and Kisame's. Too bad you can't capture him. He is too strong for you. We know he's stronger than you, don't we, Kisame? Laughed Deidara. Kisame snarled at Deidara. The techniques he used are Hashirama's own techniques, and it seems like he possesses the might and skill of the Shodai himself in battle. This will make his capture difficult, Pain, Itachi said. I know of Hashirama's strength, and that boy has it. He created several square miles of forest with little effort, and he looked only minimally tired after the battle. He is extremely strong, and is growing stronger steadily. At this rate he will reach Hashirama's strength in a few years, said Black Zetsu. Pain spoke. He cannot be allowed to grow stronger. Currently, I believe none of you with the exception of me or Itachi can face him in battle and live. If he grows any more powerful, he will be a major hindrance to our plan. Pain surveyed the members of Akatsuki, his Rinnegan fixing upon Itachi's Sharingan. We must act now to secure the plan's execution. Listen to your orders. Kakashi strolled down the road, accompanied by his longtime friends and colleagues Asuma and Kurenai. Kakashi, have you visited the new forest? Kakashi shook his head. No, not really. Is that where you are going? He looked at Asuma, observing his body language. Knew you had it in you, Asuma, he said lazily. Asuma looked at him with a light blush, with Kurenai staring quizzically at the two of them. Oh heyo, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi turned and spotted Sakura waving at him, carrying what appeared to be a basket of ohagi. Ohio, Sakura. Searching for your teammates. Huh? Yes, do you know where either one of them are, Kakashi-sensei? I searched their apartment but there was no one. I just wanted to spend some time with Sasuke-kun and Naruto. The invasion seems to have affected them both. Kakashi wondered, along with Asuma and Kurenai. Of course, Naruto would have had a hard time dealing with his actions. Even if he is the Shodai, there is a part of him that is as innocent as a pure child. He must be tortured by his part in the battle, but he hides it well, or deals well with it. I think they are on a mission with Jiraiya-sama, aren't they, Kakashi? Kakashi nodded. Sakura sighed. Oh, I see. I wanted to speak to them both. Something seemed to be running through her mind with the speed of Namake's Minato. Kakashi-sensei, will you train me? I have no wish to be left behind by them. Kakashi nodded again. Suddenly he saw something that put him on edge. Two men wearing black cloaks with red clouds, mixing into the crowd. Dangerous, they are Akatsuki. Jiraiya-sama, your fears were true. I need to follow them. He made imperceptible signs to Asuma and Kurenai, who nodded. They shot off fast. The two Akatsuki stopped in front of what the villagers had begun to call the Forest of the God. The forest was huge. The trees were so massive and dense, but it still felt natural. The sunlight hardly filtered through, providing just adequate light. The shorter of the two took off his hat. Come out, Asuma-san, Kurenai-san. I can sense you hiding. The larger man too took off his hat. It seems you are hated in this village, Itachi-san. The two Jounin appeared behind the Akatsuki. Uchiha Itachi, you certainly have a lot of gall, coming back to the scene of the crime. Why are you here? Uchiha Itachi and his partner turned, revealing their features. His partner was pale blue-skinned, spiked hair and looking like a shark. I have no wish to fight you two. Why we are here is our business. Just know that we are here on orders. Orders? Well, be that as it may, you are both wanted shinobi of the highest priority. S-class missing Nin. You won't leave here alive, Uchiha Itachi and Hashigaki Kisame, said Asuma grimly. Oh, you know me too, I'm honored. Shall I kill them, Itachi-san? Itachi considered and replied. Be quick about it, Kisame. We have our orders. Sakura walked towards that forest Naruto had created at a brisk walk. She had forgotten to give the ohagi to be given to Kakashi-sensei. She had heard Kurenai-sensei saying they were coming to visit the forest for the first time. That forest was becoming a kind of shrine for the Konoha shinobi, only after a day. She passed through the gates of Konoha, greeting Izumo briefly, and ran for the forest of God. Her mother would be irritated if she were late. She entered the forest through a convenient path that Naruto had created before leaving. What were those sounds? It was kunai clashing. She rushed in that direction when she heard her sensei's voice. Doton, Doryuhiki. She saw Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai all facing two men in black robes, with red clouds on them. Sasuke-kun. No, it was not him. It looked like an older variation of him. Then it had to be Uchiha Itachi, and the other blue man fit Naruto's description of the shinobi he had fought at Wave, Hashigaki Kisame. Sensei. Oh. Kakashi turned hastily at the sound of Sakura's voice. This was no place for a genin. Why was she here? Sakura, what are you doing here? Leave now, Kurenai yelled. Sakura seemed frozen, unable to take her eyes off Itachi's face. Kakashi cursed. Of all the times for Sakura's obsession with anything Sasuke to get in the way. Itachi appeared in front of Sakura, looking deep into her eyes. The pink-haired girl just fell in a heap. We are taking the girl, Kisame. Itachi appeared next to Kisame, Sakura slung over his shoulders. Kakashi was absolutely angered. Sakura had nothing to do with this. Unless… Oh no, Naruto. They were aiming for Naruto. Itachi, leave Sakura and go. Or else. Itachi paused, looking at Kakashi. Asuma and Kurenai were exhausted from their battle. Only the copy ninja was fit to fight. Do not make threats you cannot back, Kakashi-san. This is necessary. I will not hold back if you continue. Kakashi did not answer and unveiled his Sharingan. Oh, a Sharingan. Itachi-san, we have to deal with him here and now. The girl will not be secure in a fight, said Kisame ferally. Itachi nodded infinitesimally. He turned his stoic face upon Kakashi, and his Sharingan morphed into a pinwheel, making the Jounin gasp. Manjikyu Sharingan. Your eye cannot match mine, Kakashi-san. I am the true heir of the Sharingan. They called me the most powerful Uchiha since Madara. I will show you my visual prowess. Kisame was grinning. Don't look into his eyes, said Kakashi sharply. Asuma and Kurenai averted their faces. True, Sharingan can resist my Manjikyu a little. But you are no Uchiha, Kakashi-san. Tsukuyami. Kakashi was transported into a bleak world with a red moon and clouds moving rapidly, and he was lashed to a cross. Itachi stood in front of him with a bared katana. This is the world of Tsukuyami, Kakashi-san, the most powerful Genjutsu. I can bend space and time to my will here. You will feel pain for 3 days. Kakashi felt pure pain rage through him, and he cried out. Ah! 72 hours, 59 minutes, and 30 seconds to go. Kakashi screamed out again and again, being stabbed by multiple katana on all sides. Faintly, he remembered a conversation he had with Naruto this morning. Kakashi, do you know you have the Manjikyu Sharingan? I knew you would sense it, having fought so many Uchiha. No, Naruto, it is not that. I got it after watching my teammate die, said Kakashi. Naruto nodded sadly. I am so sorry, Kakashi, but remember that you possess has great power. I do not presume to advise you, but in my experience, a weapon not used is a weapon wasted. I know you risk blindness with its excessive use, but do use it very occasionally. You must be familiar with it in case a dire situation arises. Kakashi shook his head. It is not that I do not want to use it, Naruto. It is simply that after one use I tend to fall in exhaustion. I am no Uchiha, and no opponent I have met warrants the use of that eye. Naruto looked sharply at him. Uchiha Itachi possesses the Manjikyu as well, and if you ever meet him, remember, you can match one Manjikyu with only another Manjikyu, unless you are so strong that Dojutsu becomes irrelevant. Do not hesitate to use it in such situations. Kakashi considered deeply and then nodded. Thank you for the warning, Naruto. I will be sure to keep that in mind. Naruto nodded and shot off. Kurenai and Asuma watched as Kakashi stared into Itachi's eyes and began to slump. Suddenly Itachi slumped as well, Sakura nearly slipping off with the motion. Then he straightened up with great effort, staring at Kakashi with unbridled surprise. Kakashi asked in a hoarse voice, "Your organization? It is called Akatsuki, is it not? You plan to take Naruto and all the other Jinchuriki." Itachi looked tired as well, but a lot more surprised than tired. Kisame was staring at Kakashi with wide eyes. You must not be allowed to live if you have Manjikyu Sharingan and have this much knowledge, Kakashi-san. Itachi laid Sakura on the water gently and stared at Kakashi with his eyes, the pinwheel formation not fading. Kakashi too stared back with his own single Manjikyu, preparing for the battle he feared he could not win. Itachi's left eye bled. Amaterasu. Kamui. The rest of the ninja stared amazed at the sheer power of the techniques used. Kakashi fell onto the water unconscious, and at the same time Itachi and Kisame flew back as if kicked. Mato Gai, the noble blue beast of Konoha, stood in front of the Konoha Jounin, holding Sakura. Kurenai, take Kakashi and Sakura-san back to Konoha. Asuma and I will fight them until Anbyu arrives. Let's leave, Kisame. We did not come here to start a fight. Let's go. The two Akatsuki disappeared, the Konoha Jounin heaving a sigh of relief. Kakashi needs immediate medical attention, as does Sakura. Let's go. Oh. Orochimaru stared at the town, so unassuming it was, so sleepy. Is this the place, Kabuto? Is this where my old teammate now wastes away? Kabuto nodded. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. Our spies have confirmed it. This is where Tsunade-sama now resides with her apprentice. Orochimaru licked his lips with his creepily long tongue. It's time for me to reunite with my old teammate, Kabuto. Let's see if Tsunade is as helpful as she was in the old days. Kabuto smirked. Jiraiya and Naruto walked alone, leaving Sasuke in the clearing they had adopted for a training ground. Sasuke was really giving his all to the new fire technique Jiraiya had taught him. He still has to teach me the Grand Fireball, thought Naruto. Sasuke had learnt Shunshin from him and had progressed rapidly with that technique. Naruto did not really need the fire technique, but he thought it would be prudent to have at least one fire technique in his arsenal. Do you want to learn a technique of the Yondaime, Naruto? Naruto turned fast to him, excitement on his face. You mean the Hiraishin no Jutsu? Jiraiya laughed. No, not that one. I do know the theory behind it, but the seals are customized so well that it can be used only by those with Minato's blood in them. It is a very powerful technique. Naruto looked a bit disappointed. Any theory behind the working of the technique would be of little use, until he had the exact seal array and understood it to the fullest extent. He really doubted if Minato had left the seal array scroll lying around. He had to speak to his mother. No, Naruto. I will show you the Rasengan. It is an A-rank technique that was deadly when used in conjunction with Hiraishin. The terror your father inspired with this is legendary. Naruto was really excited. A new technique. His Mokutan, though it felt extremely natural and peaceful, was very familiar to him. Second nature. He had not had the joy of learning a new technique as Hashirama for a long time now. Show me, Erosenin. Jiraiya adopted a deadpan look, holding out his hand. Money. A tick mark appeared on Naruto's face. Really, he had to pay to learn his own father's technique? He stared at Jiraiya with a cold look. Mokutan. Jiraiya waved his hands fast. Okay. No need to get excited. Watch carefully Naruto with both eyes and sense. Naruto nodded, satisfied. Pure chakra began rotating in Jiraiya's hand, contained into a sphere. The chakra seemed to be chaotic, thought Naruto. He concentrated hard, both upon the technique and Jiraiya funneling his chakra to make the technique work. Turbulence. That was the essence of his father's technique. The powerful chakra being moved in chaotic rotations and being contained into a sphere. That's it. Jiraiya stopped his technique, looking expectantly at Naruto. The blue ball of chakra winked out of existence. Silence barrier, Erosenin. Jiraiya nodded. Naruto looked at Jiraiya with wonder in his eyes. Once they were secure. That is a beautiful technique. My father was indeed a genius. Jiraiya looked closely at Naruto. You look like you are familiar with the Rasengan. I have seen something very similar to it, but on an unimaginably larger scale. To mimic that technique. What technique, Naruto? Naruto looked at Jiraiya sharply. Bijudama, the ultimate attack of the Biju, causing massive destruction. The nine tails could even penetrate my defense, even when I used the Goju Rashumen. Jiraiya looked fascinated. Here was someone relating legend, someone who was legend himself. Was it during your fight with Uchiha Madara? Now Naruto looked sad, thinking about his long-gone friend. He had tried so hard to save him, Madara had been consumed with hatred. He wouldn't listen. Yes, Madara. We used to be so strong, the two of us. No village Directo attacked Konoha with the two of us standing to defend it. Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama. Closer than brothers, stronger than the entire village combined. Naruto shook his head, coming out of his reminiscences. That was a bygone era, and he would leave the past where it belonged. Anyway, I had that Bijudama fired against me enough times to understand its workings. But the kind of control required to mimic it must be earned through practice only, that much I can see. My perfect control might help me learn it faster than others, but still it will take time. Naruto said. Jiraiya nodded. True. Rasengan takes shape manipulation to the highest possible level, Naruto. Even for someone with control like yours, it will take training. There are actually 3 steps to mastering this jutsu. The first step is... Damn it, swore Kakashi. Guy looked at his rival as if he had declared he was Orochimaru's loyal subordinate. Kakashi never swore that loud. What is wrong, my eternal rival? Kakashi looked at him, his visible eye blazing with anger. Sakura has left the hospital. I think Itachi showed her something disturbing in his genjutsu. Something to do with Sasuke, no doubt. She left a note telling she was going to warn him. We need to pursue her. Guy looked at him warningly. We have to notify the council before leaving the village in the next few months. Those are the rules for elite jounin. Damn! Swore Kakashi again, and disappeared. He had to get these irritating formalities over with. If Sakura came to face Itachi again, she would die. He felt only little exhaustion, as he had thrown off the worst of the Tsukuyomi with his own eye. He had to save his students. The more Naruto got acquainted with Jiraiya and his eccentricities, the more he felt that his godfather was a man of his word. He was a super pervert. The first time he had accused Jiraiya of being a pervert, the man had with wide eyes and weirdly wiggling fingers proclaimed himself the super pervert. Naruto had scoffed, dismissing his boastful claim. The man had discussed with him the three vices a shinobi could fall into: women, alcohol, and money. That hypocrite. He was currently indulging all three of those so-called vices, leaving him to practice the Rasengan. The first step was popping a water balloon. Since he had his epiphany about the Rasengans working, he had tried to pop the balloon. He was close and he knew it. He leisurely walked down the street, stowing away his water balloon. Control exercises like this one required finesse and calm, and could not be done with a frustrated mind. Anyway, he had to talk to Sasuke. The Uchiha had really been killing himself with that self-punishment he called training. Naruto appeared in front of their hotel, walked up leisurely to their room and pushed open the door. Sasuke was staring at open space with his Sharingan activated, presumably training his Jujutsu. Training the Sharingan, huh? Sasuke turned to look at him. Yeah, I need to use the Sharingan well with Shunshin. I have the eyes to keep up with my speed, and I will make use of it. What do you think? Naruto nodded. An excellent idea, Sasuke. A true user of the Sharingan and the Shunshin simultaneously will be fearsome. Just like Uchiha Shursui. I would recommend that you learn Kenjutsu as well. Sasuke looked thoughtful. Yes, that would go very well indeed. Kenjutsu was an extremely useful and sophisticated art. In fact, the finesse required for Kenjutsu would be higher than that needed for Taijutsu. He already had his sword, and he had Kushina-san to teach him. He had Naruto to spar with. Sasuke Kun. Naruto looked at the door in alarm, sensing Sakura's extreme agitation. Something had happened. Appearing in front of the door, he opened it swiftly to reveal a disheveled Sakura, who promptly threw herself upon Sasuke, making sure he was all right. Are you all right, Sasuke-kun? Are you hurt? Sasuke gently pried Sakura's invasive hands off his body. Calm down, Sakura. What happened? Tell me, slowly. Naruto and Sasuke watched their teammate in apprehension as she took a few deep breaths to steady herself. Sasuke-kun, it is your brother. Sasuke looked on high alert. His face showed no anger, only extreme determination. Naruto stared into Sakura's eyes. He was in Konoha, wasn't he? Did he attack? Sakura gulped and nodded. Tell us everything now, Sasuke ordered. It was in the forest of the god. I saw Kakashi-sensei, Asuma-sensei, and Kurinai-sensei fighting Kisame and Itachi. Sakura launched into her story. Naruto ran full pelt through the town, casting around for his errant godfather. The man needed to be informed of this immediately, as he had the means to get the news to his spy network discreetly. There, a very large chakra, somewhere near the outskirts, feels like arrow senins. He disappeared with a series of Shunshin, coming closer and closer to Jiraiya's position. There he was, sitting beneath a tree, giggling like an idiot doing his so-called research. Hey, arrow senin, listen. Itachi and Kisame targeted Konoha again and tried to capture Sakura Dash. Where is she? Interrupted Jiraiya. Right here. She came to warn us, Arrow Senin. Itachi and Kisame might target her at any time. Can you install some security seals in our rooms? Jiraiya nodded and disappeared. Naruto sighed and sat down in Jiraiya's spot. The man certainly knew how to choose his resting places. Trees were the best. Sasuke heard a knock on the door to his room. Not good. Jiraiya never knocked, preferring to come through the window. Activating his Sharingan, he went to the door and opened it. And stared up into another pair of Sharingan. His heart began to beat faster as he stared at the face of his traitorous brother, Itachi. Hello, Sasuke. I see you have a fully mature Sharingan. And Sakura-san, I am sorry, but I will have to kill you too. Sakura gasped, but said bravely, do you think you can hold out against Jiraiya-sama or are both here? Itachi looked amused as he disappeared only to appear behind Sakura and kick her, but he kicked only empty air. Sasuke was on the opposite side of the room with Sakura held securely in his arms. Sakura looked dazed by the speed as Sasuke set her down. Itachi, you should never have come here. I have seen Naruto destroy an army. I know of Jiraiya's reputation. Not even you can defeat them, Sasuke said. He had long since taken Naruto's advice and had calmed himself during a fight. No longer did he simply fire up at the mention of Itachi's name. As Naruto had said, that was weakness. Anger was a weakness. Itachi looked at his brother. I can match either of them if I have to, but as you say, not both at once. But I do know that you will never beat me, Sasuke. You lack hatred. Sasuke snorted. I have changed, brother. You won't dictate my actions anymore. He held out his hand and began charging it up with lightning chakra. Kakashi-san's Raikiri. Sasuke's hand was now covered in lightning, errant arcs of it dancing around the room. Suddenly he disappeared and reappeared almost instantly, the lightning hand buried in Itachi's gut. Itachi smirked down at him. Foolish little brother. My eyes will always be stronger than yours. Sasuke gasped as the world rippled in his perception, and he saw his hand buried, not in Itachi's gut. To his horror, it was buried in Sakura's. His eyes widened as he saw the light of life leaving his teammate's eyes. Sakura gasped out with her last breath. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke could not comprehend what was happening. He had been fooled by Itachi into stabbing Sakura. He could not bear seeing Sakura gurgling blood. Itachi stood behind him, weak and blind. Sasuke felt utter grief exploding in his heart. As he lost someone he considered a precious person, Itachi was taking away one more. That traitor. Sakura slumped as Sasuke removed his hand, horrified. He watched as Sakura fell down to the earth. His Sharingan would make sure that this scene would forever be imprinted in his mind. Slowly he turned into Itachi, unable to look at Sakura. His eyes were burning and shed tears incessantly. I will never forgive this. Itachi still looked at him stoically. His eyes morphed into his Manjikyu. Oh, and what will you do, little brother? Your eyes are no match for mine. I have shown you already. You are weak. The tears falling from Sasuke's eyes were no longer normal. The young Uchiha's face was twisted with mad rage and loss, as he cried tears of blood. His three-tomo Sharingan changed into his Manjikyu Sharingan, and a sinister chakra exploded from him. He opened his eyes and stared at Itachi. His eyes were no longer normal, but consisting of three ellipses intersecting at the center. Naruto got up fast as he felt Sakura's wound, and the sinister chakra of Sasuke. He knew it too well. Sasuke had awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan. Before he could disappear, he felt someone appear behind him. A very huge chakra, and it felt different and familiar at the same time. My name is Pain, Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Save yourself the fight and come with me peacefully. Naruto turned and saw something that surprised him to no end. It was a spiky orange-haired man in Akatsuki robes. but his eyes. A wielder of the legendary Rinnegan. I have no time to fight you, Akatsuki. I am sure you have heard of my prowess. Let me leave peacefully or else. Naruto had no time for the banter. His teammate was dying. He wouldn't dare underestimate the Rinnegan, though. Mokutan, Jukai Kuten. Thousands of trees were born from the earth in front of him and rushed towards his opponent, who looked mildly surprised. Naruto exerted even more, and trees were born in all directions and surrounded the lone Akatsuki, hurtling at him rapidly. Pain looked at the trees rushing at him from all directions. This child was very, very strong. The trees were branching out and multiplying, becoming uncountable by the second. It seemed as if Pain would be killed any second by Naruto's jutsu. Naruto could sense a massive buildup of chakra from his opponent. Shinra Tensei. Naruto shielded himself with a wood wall as his attacking forest was blown into pieces, with splinters flying everywhere. The air was thick with them. A terrifying jutsu. Obviously, this was a technique that manipulated gravity itself. It was truly an almighty push. You cannot beat God, Uzumaki Naruto. You can never stand up to these eyes. Personally, Naruto disagreed. He walked up to stand opposite Pain. The Akatsuki shinobi looked at him arrogantly, and Naruto could not help but respect him. This man could definitely be a hard ninja to fight. But he had no doubt that he would prevail. You may wield the Rinnegan Akatsuki, but you are no Rikadu Sannin. You have no understanding of the true power of those eyes. An upstart. That is what you are. A child playing with things he has no comprehension of. He watched as the spiky orange-haired man lost his arrogance, to be replaced by anger. The anger gradually gave way to his own amusement. I could say the same to you, child. You may have the Mokutan, but you are no Hashirama. Naruto smirked. If only he knew. It was easy enough to deal with that gravity technique once he had faced it. He may have others, though. An attractive technique would complement a repulsive one. The duality of chakra demanded it. He held out the bird seal. Mokutan. 10 no Tsurugi. 100 long pointed stakes of wood with sharp edges rushed towards Pain from all directions again, in a perfect circle. Pain's flung out his hands again. Shinra Tensei. The massive force exploded in all directions, ripping up the ground. Naruto smirked. He would find this one interesting. The hundreds of stakes rushing at Pain bent back, curling almost to the ground, but they did not break. Pain's eyes widened as he saw what was happening. The stakes all snapped back to cut the Rinnegan wielder. Pain, who had not counted on the elasticity of the stakes, pointed both hands at the ground. Bansho Tenin. The earth below Pain was pulled up in a massive columnar explosion of rubble, intercepting each and every one of the stakes. Pain walked out from the rubble he had used to defend himself. Too bad he had used his gravity manipulation to bind his defense together, thought Naruto. That was clever. You are strong, but I repeat, these eyes cannot be defeated. Naruto raised his hands in a ram seal, looking around the ripped-up clearing. Their location was isolated enough for him to let loose a bit without endangering the town. Pain charged at him, engaging in a match of taijutsu. Naruto found that he was fighting an extremely resilient opponent. His powerful strikes were having little effect on the man. Naruto took a hard punch to his stomach, knocking the breath out of him. It seemed that the Rinnegan gave some gifts to its wielder. He could not lay a hand on Pain, no matter how unpredictable he made his strikes. Pain was somehow able to counter each and every one of his hits, and he was using gravity manipulation to counter his raw strength. Naruto shone silver for a moment, and slammed his hands down on the ground. A shockwave similar to the one he had sent at Orochimaru rushed towards Pain, blasting the ground beneath it to bits. Shinra Tensei. This time, the force that blasted outwards from Pain easily overcame his own shockwave and flung him back, painfully striking him hard, breaking bones. Naruto landed a few hundred paces away, falling hard. He could feel his ribs broken, his wrist damaged. If he had a normal body, he would have gone down instantly with multiple broken bones. If he had Hashirama's body fully developed, he could have shaken off that blast easily. But now he took minor injuries. He concentrated healing chakra to the areas and they healed instantly. His eyes snapped up to Pain in utter resolve. He slammed his palms together and shouted his technique. 6 huge dragons of wood rose out of the earth, floating up in the air magnificently. Naruto stood up on one of them, directing his creations. Naruto flared his chakra, shining bright silver. The dragons began to shine silver as well as they flew in the sky, circling around Pain's location. Pain looked at the sky with wonder, seeing it filled with dragons that shone with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's chakra. He flung out his hands, gathering his chakra for this technique. It would be big. Naruto pumped his chakra through his dragons, as the wood they were made of were so conducive to chakra that it was almost as if they were an extension of him. He could feel Pain gathering his chakra as well, presumably to unleash that huge gravitational push. The dragons floating high in the air opened their mouths, revealing a shining silver light within their mouths. Heavenly pillars of light, a technique he had not used for a long time. It was as stronger than even Bijudama if he wanted it to be, but he wanted to keep the terrain surrounding them relatively undamaged. He used Mokutan to conduct, amplify and shape his chakra into pure energy. The dragons dived from every direction towards Pain in a circle, causing the Akatsuki shinobi to gather even more chakra. The air was saturated with the sheer amount of power they were exuding. Mokutan, Hikari no Ten no Hashira, intoned Naruto. 6 huge columns of burning silver light descended from the mouths of the diving dragons, flashing towards Pain in a heartbeat. The air was impossibly bright, filled with Naruto's technique. Shinra Tensei. Another explosion rippled out of Pain, this one larger than ever. The columns of light were not dispelled, only deflected. The 6 columns of light collided with the ground chaotically, thrown out of course by Pain's jutsu. The combined explosion, also joined by Pain's gravity manipulation, caused a huge explosion, multiple shockwaves emanating from it. Naruto's sight went white as he shielded himself with a wooden sphere and let the other 5 dragons dissipate. This fight could not continue at such a level. The village would be destroyed. Already he could feel the massive shockwaves generated before the village, but thankfully only at the edge. He watched from high up in the air, standing upon his dragon, high enough in the air to escape that explosion. He could still feel Pain's chakra down there. The cloud of dust parted slowly to reveal the ground. A crater. A crater that spread to at least 1 kilometer and went around half a kilometer deep. He could sense the alarm of the villagers. They were frantic. The crater had not encompassed the village, thank Kami. But he assumed that the shockwaves had caused a momentary storm in there. His dragon dived, landing upon the ground. He jumped down to confront Pain, his wood dragon following faithfully behind him. Do you really want to attract so much attention to yourself, Pain? Destroying this village in our fight would cause the villages to focus upon Akatsuki. Do you want that? Pain looked at him impassively. That is of no import. I want you captured, and I will take out anything in my way to see that happen. Perhaps you should stop fighting. Naruto stared back calmly, as well sure that Pain knew his answer. The two faced each other inside the crater they had created. The ground started rumbling, the rubble breaking into even finer pieces everywhere as they readied themselves for another bout of combat. The air behind Pain suddenly distorted spirally, causing a man in Akatsuki robes and an orange mask to materialize. Toby is here. Toby is a good boy. He will take Leader Sama back to the hideout, the man yelled out in a childish voice. Naruto stared at him. Pain was looking at him with annoyance on his face. But Naruto could sense the Manjikyu Sharingan in the weird orange masked man, and a very strong chakra. Traces of his own chakra. He was irritated. Why did everyone have his chakra these days? Toby, I need to finish this. Stay out of it. But Toby shouted his denial childishly, and gripped Pain's shoulder, causing them both to disappear in a swirling vortex of space-time. Naruto sighed. That was one fight he did not want to do in a populated area. He had no intention of becoming responsible for mass slaughter due to collateral damage of all things. Sasuke and Sakura seemed safe. Jiraiya's chakra had also stopped fluctuating, indicating that his fight was over as well. He could sense the pervert moving towards his teammates. He could sense a chakra he had recognized before. Was it him who had assaulted Sasuke? No matter, he would find out the truth today. We have to stop meeting like this, Itachi. Sure enough, the Uchiha appeared in front of him, Manjikyu Sharingan blazing. Tsukuyomi. Naruto suddenly found himself in an empty world where clouds raced against a blood-red sky. Itachi appeared in front of him. Naruto tested the nature of the genjutsu by sending out momentary pulses of his own chakra. Strong. Very strong indeed. To actually put someone who was a sensor type, a Jinchuriki, and him in a genjutsu of this strength was exceptional. He gathered his chakra and sent it out in a huge blast. His eyes widened when the world did not even waver. Something stronger was needed. I need to talk to you, Naruto-kun. I cannot do so if you keep irritating me with those blasts of chakra. Naruto studied Itachi. You know this cannot hold me. I do, but I wish to talk to you, and this is the safest way. I control space and time in this perception. What did you do with Sasuke? The world shifted into his hotel room, where he saw Sasuke facing down Itachi, Manjikyu blazing. I will never forgive this, Itachi. The two brothers faced each other, their accursed eyes meeting. Amaterasu, they shouted in unison. In the center of the corridor materialized a large torrent of black fire. The entire place was melting away with the sheer heat, both brothers trying to dominate and control the heavenly flames. Sasuke was screaming, and used to the Manjikyu while Itachi grimly pressed on. The corridor had caught fire entirely, actually melting into some slag and still not extinguishing. A shockwave suddenly disturbed the building, causing Sasuke to lose control of the flames. The young Uchiha had given out from his first overuse of Manjikyu. Itachi turned with surprised eyes towards Naruto's and Pain's fight and disappeared. Naruto observed Itachi quietly as the world turned back to its original state. What happened to Sakura? Itachi sighed. I put all my strength into a genjutsu of 2 layers. One to make Sasuke stab Sakura-san, and the other to make him believe that the wound was deep. It is not easy to overpower Sharingan, but I can do it. Naruto nodded. From your emotions and your actions, I can only conclude that your aims do not lie with Akatsuki. Tell me what happened in the Uchiha massacre. Hiruzen was going to tell me, but he was killed. Will you tell me? Itachi looked at him sharply. Yes, I know all about that. You, Naruto-kun, are an enigma. You have the pure raw strength of Hashirama, you have his potent chakra, and you use his exact same techniques. I have my suspicions about you, but I would like you to tell me in exchange for the truth about the Uchiha massacre. Naruto considered. If Itachi proved to be trustworthy after all this, then he most definitely would deserve to know his secret. You go first, Itachi. Show me what happened that night. Itachi nodded and the world began to change and mirror the events of the massacre and Itachi's perspective. A young Itachi learning and perceiving the truths of the village and its ancient heritage. A young Itachi learning of the balance of power in the elemental nations. A slightly older Itachi becoming ANBU after making Chunin and Jounin at unprecedented ages. Playing with an adorable little Sasuke. The Uchiha clan and the council recruiting him to spy on each other. Itachi's miserable life as a double agent. The Uchiha clan planning a coup and making Itachi a central part of it. Itachi informing the council, who decided the elimination of the entire clan was wise. Itachi taking the job on to spare chaos in the village. Him making contact with the man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara. The two of them slaughtering the clan. Mikoto and Fugaku Uchiha accepting death in their son's presence, telling him he was too gentle. Itachi torturing Sasuke to make him learn hate. His heart breaking into a million pieces the entire time. Becoming a missing Nin and taking it all upon his shoulders. Joining Akatsuki and protecting Konoha always from the shadows. The visions slowly faded away, leaving Naruto to face Itachi within the original Genjutsu. Naruto looked at Itachi with absolute admiration and respect, mixed with sadness. What a man! What greatness and nobility! He bowed deeply to Itachi. You are great, Itachi. So great that even my sacrifices dwarf in comparison to yours. You deserve to know my secret. Listen carefully and know your answer. Use that manjikyu of yours to stare at my mind's reflection. Naruto used the connection Itachi had allowed between them to show him the truth of his own identity, and watched as Itachi's face began to transform from stoic to true wonder and joy. He ended the visions at the point when Hiruzen was convinced beyond belief that he was Hashirama. A smile lit up Itachi's face, his eyes burning with happiness and amazement. Amazing to have you back as Uzumaki Naruto Hashirama-sama. With you protecting the village. Don't get too comfortable, Itachi. I may be strong, and I will surpass even my old strength. Itachi could not help but gasp at this. But there is more to the Akatsuki than just what has been revealed. The one who called himself Uchiha Madara in your past was an imposter. Itachi's face grew even more surprised, but Naruto continued urgently. I need to tell you what I think. I think that the imposter is involved with Akatsuki for a reason. Pain has the Rinnegan, as you well know. He has no mastery over those eyes, or the battle would have been much tougher. Do not let your guard down because I am back, Itachi. Konoha needs you now more than ever. Itachi nodded, still looking uncharacteristically happy. But my burdens are lessened, Hashirama-sama. With you watching over Sasuke, my plans for him are unnecessary. I will not turn him into the darkness anymore and orchestrate my own death. I can protect Konoha better if I am alive now. Naruto nodded. I have no doubt that you have read the tablet in the Nakano Shrine? Itachi nodded. That is how I got the secrets of the Manjikyu. Naruto continued. Then you know of the history between Senju and Uchiha. You must have an idea of the Rinnegan's power. If Pain attacks again with all his strength, I will be the only one standing between him and Konoha's destruction. There is much more to this. What do you mean when you say, Pain's full strength, Hashirama-sama? Listen carefully, Itachi. I could sense that Pain was nothing more than a puppet, and that he was being controlled by chakra transmission from another location. I could sense 5 other such puppets, and I assume they each wield the 6 paths. Itachi looked very alarmed now. If the true pain attacks with all 6 paths unified. Yes. Only I can defeat such a person, as Konoha stands now. There must be a reason he is using the splitting of paths. You must find out, Itachi. I will be concentrating on getting back to my full strength, so I can defend Konoha when Akatsuki makes their move. I will find out, Hashirama-sama. And one last thing. You are the only one who can decipher more of the Rinnegan's secrets. You know what you must do. Will you consider it? Itachi nodded slowly. I will. Will you tell Sasuke of your identity? He is a child, Itachi. A troubled one, but a child nevertheless. I will burden him with such knowledge only when he is ready. I want him to be my true friend, not my follower. On that note, I would ask you to drop the honorifics as well. Call me Hashirama, here. All right, Hashirama. I think we have spoken as much as necessary. I can feel Jiraiya-sama approaching. The time will come when the nations will rise up against Akatsuki, Itachi. Please keep Konoha safe until such a time. Itachi nodded and the illusion broke, leaving Naruto facing Itachi in the devastated crater. You are a greater shinobi than me, Itachi. You have my word that your sacrifice will not be forgotten by Konoha. And I will take care of Sasuke. Don't worry about him. Concentrate on Akatsuki, and we will meet when you see fit. A smile broke through Itachi's face before he disappeared. Naruto turned around and spoke. What happened, Arrow Sennin? The white-haired sage appeared in the crater, whistling at the scale of the damage. Who did you fight, Gaki? I fought Kisame to a stalemate, and still did not cause this much damage. Naruto sighed. I will tell you everything later, but first, are Sasuke and Sakura safe? They are. Kakashi and Guy followed Sakura here and got them out of that. We can talk in a more secure environment, Arrow Sennin. Too many secrets. Jiraiya nodded, and the duo disappeared with a shunshin.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.